That's me in more casual attire. I know I'm overdressed for all the other speakers that were up here before. How many people here? This guy's raising his hand already. Think they're pretty kick-ass writers right now. Okay, everybody raise your hands. Lower your hand if you think your advertising right now doesn't suck. Okay, thank you. You can lower your hands. I gave a day and a half workshop on Saturday and Sunday just prior to this. We had about 20, 25 people in there. How many people wanted to come to that and just couldn't make it happen? A lot of people in the room. It was killer. You really missed out. The rest of your life will be less for that loss than that. But there was a couple of guys had questions there, and later I've been hanging out a lot in the hotel here, and a number of people have come up to me and said certain things like, I have trouble writing, I have trouble sitting down to write, or I speak Hungarian. Where's the Hungarian, the mad Hungarian? Where is he? Okay, he's back there. You know, I speak Hungarian. I want to come to the English audience, so I have this problem of coming there. And really, the litany of problems that people tell me like that are really excellent things to have. You know why? Because once you've identified your problem, you can do what? Start to fix it. I am not some kind of great savant. I'm not a genius. I think I have to give Frank Kern credit for the word genius now. He's got the trademark on it. So. I am not, there's nothing special about me. Except that around the age of 32, I realized that I was one of the biggest losers on the block. I was a slacker. I was totally clueless about life, about marketing, about everything. I was doing dead-end jobs and not really going, not just not going anywhere, just stuck in a rut. And I had an epiphany, and I got busy. And the thing that makes me different than other people is that I took notes during the entire journey that I went on. So over that 25-year journey, when I finally hit a point where I decided it's time for me to start sharing what I know with other people in a serious way, becoming a guru, as we call it, I had the notes. I had stacks of them. So the thing that sets me apart, if nothing else, is just that I paid attention on the way. I did it the hard way, and I came from a place that's probably even worse than the worst person in the room here. I was sleeping on a couch, not even on a friend's couch. I was sleeping on the friend of a friend's couch down in San Diego, happened to see a Los Angeles Times laying there, looked and saw my first direct response ad. It was Joe Carbell's Lazy Man's Way to Riches. How many people have that book? Not very many. You should try to track it down. I think it's out of print. Point is, that book was kind of a summation, takeoff on Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. How many people have read that? How many people, leave your hands up, how many people have read it? How many people have read it more than once? How many people read it every year? Okay, I read it every year. I also read Claude Hopkins' My Life in Advertising and Scientific Advertising every year. Short books, I always find something new whenever I go back. If you did not raise your hand, you did not read Think and Grow Rich, you need to go do that right now. Order it tonight on Amazon. Anyway, ordering that book by direct response kind of threw me into the world of direct response. Although I had some experience with advertising a little bit, I had been a paste-up artist in Silicon Valley. A paste-up artist means a commercial artist. I took it's skills that don't even exist anymore. All the tools that I used are now in the Smithsonian, since it was all real-world stuff. We get sheets of type. I'd have to put glue on the back and center it and use a T-square and do stuff and cut them with an X-Acto knife. But that was my job. The reason I couldn't advance very far in that was because the next step up would be graphic artist, and I was colorblind. Well, I still am colorblind. That also, by the way, is why when you see pictures of me, I will almost always be dressed in some combination of this, black and gray, because if I bring any other color, I'll wear it and it'll be a big mistake and a fashion faux pas. So Michelle, the wonderful woman I live with, is always urging me to get into grays and various colors that I don't see. And What happened years ago, I was speaking with, I was co-producing a seminar with Gary Halbert down in Key West, and I went and bought a pair of shoes down there that I thought were gray, and I wore them for the entire weekend. It turns out they were violent pink. And Gary made the entire staff promise never to tell me, so it wasn't until afterwards that I realized. Anyway, my entry into direct response was, as you will remember, Frank Kern said the same thing. I think Rich talked about the same thing. Anybody else will tell you that their journey started not with just that single step, but often with kind of a stumble, or more likely an accidental stumble sideways, or something that happened that they didn't plan for, didn't expect, had no reason to expect. And often we were at the nadir of our personal journey in life to that point. You always hear us talk about how broke we were and stuff. I was really broke. Probably $50 in the bank, a rattle-trap car, sleeping on the couch of a friend of a friend. And from that journey, once I started getting going, it was just, it was a wildest ride of my life. It's been almost, it's been over 25 years now. And I think that's why a lot of you are here now. How many people are in, not the nadir, I don't think you'd be able to afford to come to a thing like this, but how many people are at a point where you really think that you're either on this beginning of a journey or you're ready for that journey to start, if you can? Raise your hands. Almost everybody in the room. And what's great about this journey, once you get going on, is that it's fun the entire way. And I really identify with everyone here, no matter what your story is. You cannot match the grief and horror I have been through in my life. The only lucky thing I had about it is that I was raised in a family where we were not just storytellers, but humor was highly valued. And a lot of it was that MASH style humor from the movie MASH, where things are just so gruesome, you gotta laugh about it. So, okay, I think we'll just get right into this. What I've got for you is this 17-point menu to writing every piece of kick-ass copy you'll ever need. And this is the sum total of what I have done unconsciously in my career. I will explain a little bit about me in just a minute, but basically, how many people know who I am or came from my list or have some knowledge of me? How many people have no clue who I am? Raise your hand. Oh, there's a number of people. No clue who I am. You can all leave now. How many people are pissed off at me for some reason or another? Just a couple in the back. Okay, yeah. Nelson, yeah. Over the course of my career, I shot quickly up through no fault of my own, except for the fact that I really dove into this because I grew up clueless. When I was a young man in Cucamonga, California, where I grew up, it is a real town, I walked around in this perpetual state of anxiety because I was convinced that everyone knew what life was about except me, and they were withholding it from me. They just weren't telling me what the secrets were. It wasn't until years later, in my 30s, after I'd gotten going, that I realized they weren't thinking at all. They didn't have a single coherent thought in their head, certainly not about the future, certainly not about how to make things work. I grew up among people whose a very common phrase was, he's too big for his britches type of stuff. The idea of trying to attain things was looked down upon. So not only was I clueless, but I had that negative attitude about even trying. So what I did was, well, my story's kind of long and convoluted, and I won't bore you with it here, but basically I took a speed reading course, went and read everything I could in the Torrance Municipal Library, from the Dewey Decimal System of 600 to I think 780, which includes sales, marketing, writing, advertising, all of that. Read my way through it, found a lot of the books that I thought were really good, read them again. Those turned out to be the same books that Gary Halbert and Jay Abraham and other guys that became my mentors had on their bookshelves too. So I knew I was on the right track then. But I was reading all of that stuff because I thought I needed to do that to get up to speed with everybody else in the advertising world. And I was going to go out as a freelancer and try my hand as being the guy that writes the stuff. And I really had no clue what I was doing. I had no portfolio. I had no experience, really. And what I discovered when I walked into my first agency to ask for a job was that reading alone put me light years ahead of everybody there. Advertising was in a dark age in the 80s when I got into it. Long copy was considered a faux pas. trying to actually sell something was considered futile at best and an offensive thing to do to a reader at worst. And it was kind of interesting. Books like the Claude Hopkins books, John Capel's books, those had gone out of print. The John Collier letter book, they were out of print. They are now back in print because I was part of that vanguard that just kept, buying the used copies. My first copy of the John Collier letter book was a Xerox of a mimeograph of handwritten notes that somebody had gone to the Library of Congress to copy. It's back in print now, and it's a great book. How many people have John Collier's letter book? Yeah. John Collier's, I believe it's the letter book, isn't it? Anybody got it? Tony, where are you at? Collier, Robert Collier. Did I say John? I apologize. Robert Collier's letter book, Colliers. It's an old book, and he was one of the first guys to really start to take the principles from Claude Hopkins, and and he was a contemporary of John Capel's too. So anyway, I'm getting obscure here, and I don't mean to. The 17-point menu was what I was unconsciously doing through those years. I was running copy through a gauntlet, but I was doing it unconsciously. I had my little list. I was trying to do things. I was knocking off ads. I was doing everything I could to write, but I didn't know exactly what I was doing, so it was kind of a hodgepodge. But I knew I had a vague idea that I was getting in the right direction. And my copy, even the first stuff I wrote, turned out to kick the ass of experienced copywriters at these agencies who had been working for 20 years in the business. And the reason was I paid attention to classic salesmanship tactics. And I had some inkling that it just struck me as a good idea that long copy, not just long copy, but copy that actually sold, copy that told stories, copy that delivered a punch would work where the vapid, boring crap that they were pouring out, both in direct mail and on TV and in print advertising at the time, was falling short. So what I did in the last couple of years is I started paying attention to that process that I had gone through internally, and I came up with this 17-point menu. Now, in the day-and-a-half workshop that those 25 lucky people attended, I went through these in detail. I'm not going to have the luxury of doing that because I've got less than 2 hours to talk here, but I will go through all the 17 points. The advantage, of course, of that workshop. How many people are here from the workshop? Was it worth it, guys? In fact, I think I will have time to take you guys through one of the exercises, but I took you guys through some deep exercises, didn't I? It kind of hurt, didn't it? Hurt a little bit. I made them work, and it was worth it. Anyway, where am I supposed to aim with a clicker, guys? There we go. This is real simple. Why learn the pro-level secrets of writing copy? This is kind of my motto. Because nothing good will ever happen in your business until your copy gets written. Even if you're doing spontaneous video, and I love video. I think it's great that in the last, half year or 8 months or so, so many people have gotten high-speed internet access and Google video has come around so that we can use video more. There were some technological barriers to be able to use it just a year or so ago. That's all gone. Even if you're staring into the camera, you just woke up and you're sending out a quick message, you saw Jeff Walker walk around with his handheld video, he's still writing copy in his head. There is a process that you go through to think about what you're going to say. When you get good at it, you can do it spontaneously. You just go into that mode. You say what you need to say to have the person listening to what you say do what you want them to do. All right, there we go. Who the heck is John Carl? For those of you who don't know me, I have merely prepared a few slides. There's Rich pretty much telling what he said before. Frank Kern was nice enough to give me a very good testimonial. Actually, his is one of the most eloquent. It really struck me when he talked about being in a bad place, reading Kick-Ass Copywriting Secrets of a Marketing Rebel, the book I put out about 5 years ago, and turning to his wife and saying, I think it's going to be okay. Because he felt it had helped them bust through. Everybody know Joe Polish? Okay, he's kind of he's another one of the group of internet marketers. Jim Edwards, anybody know Jim? Good guy, another one of the so-called stars of the world. And what he says at the bottom here in the color, is that yellow or orange or something at the bottom? Yellow. With these simple tools, in other words, above it, John's copywriting knowledge, an HTML editor, and a website, with these simple tools, I could conquer any part of the internet I set my mind to. I really like that. What's that acronym, KISS? Keep it simple, stupid. I had that printed out and put above my desk for a long time because we all tend to complicate things. Really, who thinks the web is complex and complicated and all the technology is kind of daunting? Be honest. A lot of people do. I will tell you that in most cases it is not. If you come across technology that you cannot wrangle, hire somebody to take care of it. The essentials are the marketing, the salesmanship, creating the product. Gary Halbert is a good buddy of mine. In fact, let's have just one moment of silence. This is one of my most cherished testimonials. I was the first guy that he would call when he had a marketing problem. Ken McCarthy, anybody been to the system here? A lot of virgins in the audience. All the guys from the system are sitting on the outside. What's that got to do with? John Reese, Lou Vukas, these are guys that you wouldn't know. Bob Pierce, 20-to-1 return. I'm just showing these to let you know that Lisa Wagner, one word, the hook, it wasn't a word, it was a two-word hook, I believe, tripled response, things like that. Alex Mendosian, 50%. It goes on and on. You get the idea. People that listen to me, and often it is, as Rich said, one little thing. But you might have to listen to everything I have to say to get to that one little thing. But really, your journey can start with that one little thing. Sometimes it'll just hit you. It'll just kind of slap you upside the head. Yeah, I'll try that. And that's the way fortunes get made. You guys want to see the 17-point menu? All right. This is actually what I've told a number of people that is the basic breakthrough. And look at that, it's number one. The basics of a great message. This has cleared up more confusion in advertising than probably all the books on your shelf right now. Here's who I am. Here's what I got for you. Here's why it's important for your life. Here's what to do now. Anybody confused by this? Anybody recognize the eloquence and elegance of this simple approach to salesmanship? Raise your hands if this triggered something inside of your head. The slide disappeared? As I go on, this will become more and more profound. Number two is your hot seat head grinder, the plug-and-play elements of your own peculiar elevator chat. The elevator chat we talk about is when you get into an elevator and there's only a couple of floors before you're going to have to get off, and somebody that you would like to talk to says, "So what is it that you do for a living?" Most people stumble, mumble, and are incoherent, and at best start a story that will require them holding the door open, the elevator door, as they finish it. So really, the more succinct and the more concise you can make your message. Who are you? What do you sell? Why are you in this biz? What do you do for your customers? The more precise. This should be really a couple of sentences. Very short, very profound, very straightforward. If you can't answer these questions and not take 15 minutes to do it, then you're either in the wrong biz, you don't know what your biz is, or you have trouble communicating. These points are, by the way, in the order that I run through them, more or less, as I prepare to write copy, sit down to do a video. It can be at light speed. neurons firing off. Or maybe I got to sit down, take a walk. Maybe I got to spend a day or two thinking about it. When I write for clients, this is what I try to get them to realize. When I write for myself, I have to step back and see how I fit into this. People who are writing for themselves, you're going to have to figure out what your credibility means to the person you're trying to write to. And I've broken it down into two subsets. Now, when we talk about the go-to guy, the way to stand out in your niche is to be that first guy that somebody thinks of when they have a question about the niche you're in. You want your email to be received with a smile and not a, oh God, not another email from Joe. And your credibility, this is where it gets kind of fun. There are two subsets. The rational reasons to explain why he bought. He's got to go back, and by he I mean the generalized person that you're going after. It could be she. But he has to go back to his dubious spouse, his nosy neighbors, and even worse, his arrogant brother-in-law who really wants him to fail. How many people have that brother-in-law in their life? A third of the room. Those are rational responses. When we talk about the reason why copy, when we talk about giving a person a reason to buy, what we're talking about is giving him some rational reasons, not to just explain to himself, but to explain to those people in his life who are really part of the major obstacle of him pulling the trigger and taking out his credit card and buying. The other part is the more fun part. It's the emotional ape-brain reasons that seal the deal deep inside. There are two reasons why anybody buys anything. There's the reason they'll tell you they bought it, and I like to give the example of the guy in the midlife crisis buying the Porsche. He will tell you it's a wonderful automobile, it's a fine piece of machinery, it's a great investment. He will give you all these reasons that have nothing to do with why he bought it. Why did he buy the Porsche? Of course. When you get in touch, when to feel young again, when to get the pretty girls to give him a look. He may not admit that to himself, but that's what you have to know. That's what you have to understand. That's part of connecting with the person you're writing to. Your avatar. Frank spent a long time on this yesterday, and he called it, what did he call it? It was a prospect, bonding with your prospect, connecting with the what? Bob, right. The word avatar, any gamers in the room? Any gamers, online gamers? Avatar is essentially a term that means it's the manifestation of your online presence. So if you're in a game, whatever photo you choose, you can be Superman or a dragon or a wizard or something. They call it an avatar. It's an old word, goes back to the Greek. We use it just to explain who it is you're selling to. Try to get that image in mind. The idea of Bob is very good, but make sure that you understand what her needs are, where it hurts, and again, what does she need to hear from you to feel good about buying. This seems simple and straightforward. It's the hardest part of becoming a salesman. How many, I'm going to keep asking these questions just to make sure you guys know. How many people consider themselves natural salesmen in the room? Okay, a few do. I will tell you, I was not a natural salesman. Every time I picked up a book or talked with a guy who had done face-to-face selling or any of that, I was riveted. I was right there. I wanted to hear everything there was to hear about it. I have a degree in psychology, which gave me a little bit of insight, not much. But when you start thinking about what does she need to hear from you to feel good about buying, it's not what you need to feel good about, it's what she needs to feel good about. That little instance of empathy makes all the difference in the world. And it's the crux of all good advertising. I'll have some examples of some later stuff that we're getting. We're only on number 4, 5. You saw examples of testimonials. I ran through them. This is the fundamental proof and support for your big promise and your credibility. We'll be talking about big promise in a minute. Credibility is very, very important. How many people have a rack of testimonials that they routinely use in their advertising? Okay, it should have been the entire room. How many people are rookies and don't have a business and are here really starting that thing out? Okay, so there are some rookies. Okay. Oh, okay, more. Good for you. This is often the kind of step that you take where the opportunities come to you. That was the point I think I was trying to make before about me being clueless. The one thing I had going for me was as Frank talked about, the suspension of belief. I didn't believe I could actually get out of that hole I was in. And actually, I knew I wasn't going to be sleeping on couches the rest of my life because, well, I actually wasn't thinking in the future at all, but I kind of had an inkling that at some point I was going to get a job that I'd stay in for a long time and just do the 9 to 5 and do all of that. But by breaking out of that, all it took was just a desire to just change things, to get going, to do some action. And if I needed to read, or I needed to put myself out, or actually take some risks, whether it was financial, which there wasn't much of a financial risk for me whenever I did anything, because I didn't have any money. But when I did, if I had $2,500 in the bank and I needed to spend $500 of that to get something, a course or something like that, it was kind of a no-brainer, even though it was a significant portion of my net worth at the time, because it was all investments. I was no longer thinking of money as something I needed to hoard and bury in the backyard, but rather as a conduit or tickets to the better life. So money became a means to an end. Testimonials as you go along in your business, for those of you who are rookies, for those of you who are in business and do not have the testimonials, you need to get them. People who have come up to me, I've had a number of people come up and talk to me at this seminar, and they've said, you did this for me and it was great, or I read this that you put out and it did this and it did all these things. And my response is always the same: dude, you owe me a testimonial. And the testimonials should be specific, short, and spicy. The worst kind of testimonial you can have is a raw testimonial. Joe's a great guy, you really ought to get his stuff. That doesn't really do much. Rather, the ones like I had there, they are specific, they are short, and they are spicy. Specific means I was clueless, I was making $500 a month, I took that one idea you gave me, and 3 months later I'm now pulling down $15,000 a month in a very complex business that has a lot of competitors, and I want to thank you for that. That would be an example of a specific short testimonial. The spicy stuff is, some of my favorites are, one guy said, I read John Carlton stuff like a 13-year-old reads Playboy. I thought that was pretty cool. One of my favorite testimonials came from Jeff Paul, who said, Carlton really pisses me off. I read his stuff to rip off his ads, but I always wind up buying what he's selling. And this is another, multimillionaire marketer, so that's one of my favorite testimonials. Get that rack of testimonials. If you go to my site, marketingrebel.com, I'm not asking you to go, but if you do, you will see that there's a wall of testimonials there. And that's a fraction of the ones I have. Most of them were unsolicited, by the way. But if you don't have them, go ahead and get going on them. That's how you support your credibility. Anybody want to guess why? The people who are in the workshop, you don't count. Don't blurt it out. Do you know why you want testimonials? Social proof. If you say it, it's bragging. If someone else says it, it's a third-party endorsement. Your USP. I wasn't able to hear all of Jay's speech. I had to take care of something, but he addressed USP, didn't he? A little bit? USP, briefly, is a term that comes from classic advertising around the 50s. I think it was Rosser Reeves, who was a television guy who did slogans for beer and stuff, talked about the unique selling proposition. In long copy and in direct response, especially online, that doesn't quite cut it, so I changed it. I'm using the same words, but I changed it a bit. Your USP should be positioning yourself uniquely in your market in order to sell. Fulfilling on those three things will help you dominate a niche. Positioning yourself means you have to know what the competition is doing so that you're uniquely different than them. However, you're always thinking about selling. Because you can be different than everyone else. You can just be the crazy guy. The guy who never bathes and walks around in a bathrobe all the time and is incoherent. That would set you apart. You wouldn't sell anything. Well, actually I say that, and then there's all these guys that have been speaking here that do exactly that. So. Company line versus sales detective research. Sales detective research means you sit down and you think, what is it that I need to find out to get the goodies that are going to sell this stuff? When you write your first ad, the company line is what freelancers have to come across. When I have a client who pays me a lot of money, and I'm very, very expensive, although I'm not even taking clients anymore now. Somebody pays me 30 grand to write an ad. I'm going to sit down, I'm going to talk to the guy who wrote the check first, but he's going to give me the company line, what he thinks the product is, why he thinks people are buying, and I will tell you that in my 25 years as an A-list freelance copywriter, that guy is almost universally dead wrong by up to 180 degrees. He doesn't know why people are buying it. He doesn't know what his product really does, even if he invented it. Why? Somebody. He's in love with it. We talked about, I didn't even bring it up, I think it was Tony that brought it up. In the workshop, we talked about how passion for your product, we talk about try to get into something that you're passionate about, follow your bliss, all that stuff. It can be a handicap. If it blinds you to what it is about your product that makes it real to someone else. I tell people, a very simple exercise I tell people to do, and I encourage all of you to do it, especially the rookies. Try to get a friend who likes you to go to a movie you just saw that you know he will like. Anybody tried to do that? What's the result? 9 times out of 10, he will not go. A friend who likes you, who would like the movie that you recommend, will not go because of your enthusiasm. In fact, the more enthusiastic you are about it, the more his defenses will come up. And once you know little psychological tricks like that, you know that just being enthusiastic about a product, being in love with a product is not enough. So my job was always to get past the company line. So what you want to do is become a sales detective. When I was working for a client, I'd want to talk to the secretaries, the feet in the street salesmen, the guys in the back room, the guys who are ordering, everybody else. I want to hear the rumors, the gossip. I want to hear what they're saying behind the owner's back. Because that's often the stories, that's where the hooks come from, that's where the real stuff comes from. And if you're selling for yourself, how many people are selling their own stuff online now? Okay, most of the room. You've got to find a way to do this. Hire somebody to come in, be super critical. You can do it yourself, but you've got to step out of yourself and you've got to be hypercritical about what you recognize as your own company line. One of the easiest ways to do it online, by the way, is by ask campaigns, or get into some kind of communication with your social networking, with your audience, however big it is. If it's 5 people, get 5 pieces of input about why they bought. You may think it was because of the headline you had, or because of the wonderful things you did, or just because you're such a great guy. And they will tell you, no, I bought because it really fit this particular need. Or I like, that one bullet you had on page 9 is what flipped it for me. And I will tell you that in long copy, and I've written for the largest mailers in the world, I realized early on that often in a letter, a direct mail letter, or a magalog with 30 or 40 bullets, and we will get to bullets here, but 30 or 40 little pieces of information, it will be one of those that will flip the people and make them start buying. And it won't be the same one with each person either. Somebody was asking last night about how to approach the same market with the variations of the same market. It was gender, actually, he was talking about. If you know how to sell to guys, how do you sell to the women in the same market? We do that by kind of surrounding the objections that people have and making sure that you're covering everything, every single possible objection that person comes up with. One of the classic stories that I learned from guys who were doing face-to-face sales is that when they knew how to sell something, the first thing that would happen when they got really good at doing that was they'd get lazy And time and again, I would hear guys talking about the checkbook would come out, the pen would be hovering over the checkbook, ready to go, and he would stop his pitch. He would stop talking. He said, I got him there, I've done my job. Even though he knew he hadn't covered all the points that he had covered before to make that sale happen. And they talked about somehow magically, they didn't even see it, the pen disappears. The checkbook is closed. Pretty soon the checkbook's gone. Next thing he knows, he's being ushered to the door, and they said they'll think about it and get back to him. Very important rules from the real world. Classic salesmanship is what I teach because that's what saved my ass, what got me to do things right. And to this day, it is still the big secret weapon among all the marketers that are making it work. They may couch it differently, they may say things, it's classic salesmanship. It gets back to when the first caveman sold a cave with a better view to another caveman for a slab of mastodon meat. These things are as old as mankind, the same as storytelling. It's about persuasion and compelling. The last thing here, it's not about you at all. That's just a big secret. It's not about you. We have a saying in marketing, give them what they want first. You can sell them what they need later. Trying to convince somebody that you have the answer is like trying to talk a friend into going to see a movie. You're going to fail a lot. Here's an example. Example of positioning. Okay, come on. Come on. This was in a golf magazine. It was the second golf ad I actually wrote, but I'll just read the top part. How does an out-of-shape 55-year-old golfer, crippled by arthritis and 71 pounds overweight, still consistently humiliate PGA pros in head-to-head matches by hitting every tee shot farther and straighter down the fairway? This ran in major golf mags as a 3-page solid copy ad. 3 pages of solid copy. There weren't any photos in there until the second round. It outraged everybody in the golf magazines. Why? Anyone want to take a guess? Any golfers here? Few. Golf magazines, if you looked at the golf magazines, you came from Mars and you looked at the golf magazines, you would think that the average golfer was 29 years old with a supple back and a windmill swing and all this stuff going from it. In truth, the average golfer is more like our buddy here. He's over 55. He's not feeling good. He has a short backswing. He really doesn't, he is not athletic. He hurts. He's gobbling ibuprofen, right? So this ad identified with the people we were after. We weren't after the 29-year-olds with supple backs and windmill swings who actually could hit as far as Tiger Woods. We were after the other guys. And of course, this ad ran for years and years and years. It did well in mail, and it has gone online to do equally well. Huge promise. What can you say truthfully and without blushing that will set up believable opportunity? Those of you that you've been listening to these guys up here, and I think a lot of you actually fit into that model too, of not being in a good place and then having some opportunity come by. Maybe quickly, maybe it was sitting there all the time, but in your previous life of even a week ago, you wouldn't have jumped on that opportunity. But that's how the adventure starts, is when you actually look at an opportunity, you suspend disbelief, and you say, I think I'll just try it. I'll give it a shot. Your job then becomes helping other people make that same step, and it's a very difficult step to make. There is in the first part of my copywriting, Kick-Ass Copywriting Secrets of a Marketing Rebel, the course on copywriting that I wrote quite a while ago now. In the foreword, I say that if you have an unethical product and you use these tactics to get ahead, I hope you burn in hell for eternity. And I mean that. Direct response has a bad reputation because of all the guys writing you emails from Nigeria and all the long copy ads that were selling the Brooklyn Bridge, essentially, or swampland in Florida. Which actually has paid off. It took 50 years, but the swampland, they had to drain it first. Justifiably so. Long copy advertising and a lot of marketing has a bad rap. That doesn't mean that the tactics that they used aren't still good. It gets down to classic salesmanship. You want to fix what's wrong. You want to eliminate fears. And this is the biggie. You want to fortify the sense of power and confidence among the powerless and the unconfident. That was me. And just that little bit of sense that, what the heck, I'll give this guy a try, got me onto the first step on that path where I had to go. So I viscerally understand what needs to happen to get somebody to take that first step. And then the hint here in yellow or orange, whatever. Hint, the meek shall not inherit the largest market share. You can be meek in your normal life. I will tell you that I am one of the laziest guys you will ever meet. I'm a night owl. I'm an introvert. I have strange hobbies. Huh? I'm not going to tell you those. I shared most of them with you guys earlier. The shrink over here once they get the... My point is that I do not normally interact socially with people. And what's great about online, this social networking kind of stuff, is that it's easy. In fact, it's a little too easy. You know, what's the number one problem that MySpace is encountering and Facebook? They're running into privacy issues. These guys are on there, they're sharing everything. And what happened? Was it November or something? They had some kind of thing where if you bought something online, it automatically got sent to all your friends, so everybody knew what you were buying them for Christmas, and it was a big faux pas. But people have been so casual about this lack of privacy, of sharing everything. It's a different kind of world. Because it seems so easy. You're online. You're in your bathrobe, you haven't washed your hair in 3 days, and you got a cat in your lap, and you're writing eloquently as if you're a duchess, presenting yourself online, and you can do that. Still, though, when it comes down to selling, a lot of people get really meek about it. I believe we'll be talking about that in a bit. Here's an example. I wrote for the guitar magazines. This thing ran for a couple of years and went from the magazines. Again, I believe it was a 3-page, might have been a 2-page ad, solid copy. The music industry's secret weapon, Guitar Wizard, finally reveals his embarrassingly easy shortcuts that can take anyone from raw rookie to stage ready, quote, get all the girls, unquote, guitars in just one short weekend. Outrageous. It did very, very well. It's one I wrote for a freelance course that I also have. How to turn your ability to string 2 sentences together into a freelance copywriting career that, if you'll just follow the simple map I've laid out for you, can easily earn you over $100,000 your first year. That was actually an understatement. The first 3 testimonials down there were for $500,000 to $1 million in the first year. I'm not saying everybody's going to do that, but the basic thing was you can if you follow the map. And the fact is, it really was string 2 sentences together. I wasn't trying to teach writers how to write better. I've said this time and time again. I would rather take a near illiterate but street savvy salesman and turn him into a copywriter than try to turn a guy with a PhD in English literature into a salesman. Did I say that right? Try to turn I would rather take a near illiterate streetwise salesman and turn him into a copywriter than try to take somebody with a degree in English literature and turn them into a salesman. It's about the salesmanship. So you don't need to know how to write. All right, this is a biggie. Be the one thing he encounters today that shocks him out of his zombie state. In almost every market that you guys are in, every niche, most of the people that you're going to be trying to convince to go from prospect to customer is what I call a somnambulant blob. When I write, I like to think of the person as this large blob-like creature welded to the couch so seriously that he will not get up to leave the house if it's burning down. And I've got to get him so excited, light a match under his ass, and get him so motivated that he's going to move, that action is going to ensue. Reading is a passive behavior. Watching video is a passive behavior. It's like watching TV. The job of good marketing is to wake people up. People walk around in a semi-sleepy, white noise state that I call the zombie state. That's not putting people down. One of the things that happens when you learn how to write copy and become a good salesman is you actually have to wake up. There isn't a single marketer that you've seen or that you know of that knows how to write their own copy and do this stuff that isn't wide awake and wired into the sweet spot of life. Living life well, understanding life well, seeing things in a way that most people do not see things. Out of this comes the attitude, hooks and tall tales, what I like to call the incongruent juxtaposition of compelling sales elements, and I believe I have an example of that. This was my first golf ad that I wrote, those many years ago. Amazing secret discovered by one-legged golfer. Adds 50 yards to your drives, eliminates hooks and slices, and can slash up to 10 strokes from your game almost overnight. This really outraged the people at the golf magazines. They were laughing hysterically, thinking, we're going to take their 70 grand a page. It was a 3-page letter. Full pages. And they thought, we're just taking it. About the 5th time that my client bought space, then they started thinking, oh my God, now what are we going to do? These guys are going to run this forever. And they started realizing that it was working. My ads have actually changed the way ads look in a number of different magazines. Bodybuilding, the guitar mags, golf, a few others. I'm proud of that. That is the incongruent juxtaposition of compelling sales elements. One-legged golfer, it doesn't fit in your head. It's a square peg and all you've got is round holes in there. It doesn't fit. That's part of the act of waking you up a little bit. But you can't just shock people. You have to be relevant. So the incongruous juxtaposition of compelling sales elements. The little guy wins the girl from the big handsome guy. The broke guy becomes wealthy. Which ties into before and after shockers. And my favorite, and the one that you've been hearing a lot about, is inside info on the sly. All of us lead lives of, what was it that Thoreau said? Quiet desperation. Take that to heart. The people you're after are leading lives of quiet desperation. They think they're missing out on the party, and the fact is they are in a lot of cases. If you have inside info that can help them, or a product that really can solve a problem for them, then shame on you if you don't do everything you can to get your point across, including all the little tactics that from classic advertising that we've been using. Inside info on the sly means I have it, it works. If you're uncomfortable stepping forward and doing any kind of hardcore selling or just saying you need to buy this now or any of that, if you're uncomfortable with that, take the other tactic. You've heard about it a lot during this seminar. You can just say, I got it. If you want it, it may be available. It may not. But make the person act. Don't make it easy for them to get it. In fact, make them actually wake up and have to do something for it. World famous Street Fighter will give you a free gun just to prove he can take it away from you barehanded as easy as candy from a baby. That was a DVD series on gun disarmament, actually. Sold for about 10 years in the gun mags and self-defense magazines. This was something I wrote for one of the largest mailers in the world. An amazingly fun opportunity to catch up to and even pass everyone who's having better sex than you are right now. And it's a free look, too. The most exciting sex of your life, the most satisfying intimacy of couples who know. And then blah, blah, blah. Life is too short. Anybody spot the semi-subliminal appeal to their neighbors and such in there. It's the idea that everyone else is having great sex and you're not. Verifying what a lot of people suspect, by the way. All right, when you write, again, when I go through this process, I really haven't written a word of copy yet. I've been prepping, and I've been thinking about things. 9 is the marketing decisions. What kind of campaign are you going to run? Evergreen just means it's going to be a page that's up there and people find it on AdWords or whatever and they're going to buy. There's the launch process, the joint venture. You have to think about what you're trying to accomplish. Always write your copy. Again, whether you're going to present it on a video or whether you're going to do it in email or a series of emails. If you're going to do it face-to-face, if you're going to do it in a phone call, on a web conference, always have a goal in mind. What do you want your prospect to do, or what do you want them to bring away from this? Usually thinking about what you want them to do, even if it's you want them to think about what you've got, because you haven't given them an opportunity to sell yet. It's going to be a bit of time. But you want to prep them for the next email that comes. So when you think about that, this is huge. Nobody sits down and just writes copy willy-nilly and throws it out there. Actually, I take that back. A lot of marketers are doing that right now. Those are the guys that are struggling. It's no biggie to try thinking about what it is you want your prospect to do. And then the delivery systems, email, video, websites, direct mail, print ads, PR, and the blogosphere with social networking, which you'll be reading about a lot. When you think about these delivery systems, know the nature of the delivery beast. There are limits and demands to the technology, and the expectations of your prospect for time, length, and attitude. This is something that I've been talking a lot in the green room where I hang out with the guys behind the scenes. And what's interesting is we are in a new golden age online, mostly because of the way video has really launched to the forefront. More people are watching YouTube now than logging on to Google. Isn't that right? It's just recently YouTube has overtaken Google as a stop. But what are the expectations of your prospect when you do this? You can get away with an hour-long video, but is that the expectation of the person you're going after? Maybe they've, in your market, nobody else, including you, has ever got over 3 minutes. Then if you go an hour, you have to make that decision. Is that a mistake, or does that make you stand out? Maybe it's a good thing, but you got to think about it. And then the costing rules, that would be like going in direct mail, things like that. How many people have a business that's mostly online, but are using direct mail to augment what they do? Okay, how's that working out for you? How's that working out for you? Very well. Usually, when I ask that, the guys that say yes are in the back of the room, and they reluctantly raise their hands because it's a big damn secret in the online community that if you can get the name and address of the people you've been dealing with virtually online, you can multiply your results significantly. But you got to know the game. It costs money to get it printed up and put in the mail, things like that. So when you're right, there are some limits. When people should have started out with this. How many people think long copy doesn't work? Or have an inkling that in their market, people won't read long copy. That's a better way to put it. And they're right. The standard answer I give, which doesn't seem to sink in all the time, is that I don't write long copy because I like long copy. If I woke up tomorrow and the universe had altered in such a way that short little bursts of copy actually worked, I'd be the first one writing short copy. If my ads are long, it's because I start at the beginning, I go through everything I need to do to say what I need to say to get the person I'm writing to do what I want them to do, and then I stop. And usually that takes a while. Depending on the price or depending on the action you're asking for them, I relate it to the world of romance. I mean, if all you're doing is the equivalent of getting their name and email, that's kind of like getting a phone number. in a bar, if any of you have done that. It's not a big investment on the other person's part. Half of them will lie to you and give you the number of the police department, so. But you don't have to make a big investment, going all the way to absurd lengths. If you're going to ask somebody to marry you, you need to have you need to say certain things to help them understand why that's a good idea. You can't use that same process. So offline, the old guys in here, me and Jay and a few of the other guys who have come from the old world of mostly direct mail and print ads, we made the switch over to writing for the web fairly easily, but a lot of guys are coming up that don't have that former experience, and they're going nuts because there's no cost limitation to writing a long piece of copy. So you've got 40-page sales letters for things, and it's because nobody's standing behind them to smack them upside the head and tell them to stop. If you tried to put a 40-page letter into the mail, you'd pay $5 a letter to send it out. You want to come in under an ounce, so you pay, what is it now, 42 cents? I forget. So the limits of the technology, which includes mailing, which includes putting an ad in a magazine, putting even a classified ad in, or the haiku, as we call it, of AdWords. What was it again? 32, 35? I keep forgetting the number of characters you can have. All right, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. Features and benefits. I will tell you that the average person that comes to me for a consultation does not know what he's selling. He believes that what he's selling is a seminar or a course or a book or a service, like he's a divorce lawyer. That's not what he's selling. That's the delivery system for what he's selling. That would be the features. And when I have here bang, crash, duck, and stats, I mean the physical stuff, the thud factor of stuff. Even if it's an e-book, that is a feature. Benefits, I have yummy, ooh la la, and warm fuzzies. Benefits are what the features do for the person using it. This is huge. Rich didn't sell a seminar here. He sold the benefits of coming to the seminar, coming away with a deep, profound knowledge of internet marketing, especially the social networking part of it, and the opportunity to go really deep by listening to certain speakers who may help trigger that first step onto your own journey. This is something I put into my very first talk back at a big seminar many years ago. I like it so much I like to throw it in there. I call it the Marketing Rebel Appeal-O-Meter. Can you all read that? On the left, wait, I've got my little laser. I love this thing. That's not showing up. Okay, well anyway, this is a graph sort of. Up here you have almost everyone, down here you have almost nobody. Down here you have cold hard reality, and over here you have magic. And here's the line of response. The closer you get to saying magic, take this pill, go to sleep, and all the weight will disappear. Take this pill, go to sleep, you'll wake up with a cute blonde next to you and your romantic woes will be gone. The more you get to that magic idea, the more you appeal to almost everyone. The more you start talking about cold hard reality, the farther down the ladder you get. How many people are in what we call the biz op market? Business opportunity. Well, a few. One of the things that is often a shock is that if you even have the word work in any of your stuff, you're going to lose a huge part of your audience. They really want that magic. Now, one of the things that that continues to give direct response marketing a bad name is all these claims that weight loss products tend to have. About every 10 years, people forget why they stopped saying some of the things like lose weight while you sleep or lose weight automatically or eat all you want and continue to lose weight. The reason that people stopped saying those things 10 years ago was because everybody who was doing that went to jail. And rightly so, they were lying. I've noticed that just in the last year, we're seeing more and more of that popping up, people actually saying that. I will tell you that the alphabet agencies of the federal government will finally, at one point, get their Valkyries ready and come swooping down on those people very, very soon. But without some kind of regulation or without some kind of internal governance, a lot of marketers will just go over the line to that magic side. You don't need to. I'm not saying you should, but you need to be aware that the closer you are to magic, take a pill and it will happen. My favorite was back in the 80s when subliminal tapes, how many people bought subliminal tapes before? They were big in the 80s, and the idea was, as I was reading some of the copy for some of the stuff, was you buy these tapes and you run it at night and you don't even have to hear them, and you wake up in the morning, you're knowledgeable, you have all this stuff. Well, they were getting to the point that you buy these tapes, you don't even have to plug them in, just having them in your room, you will start to absorb all this knowledge. I was thinking about writing a book. You don't even have to read the book. You slip the book under your pillow as you sleep at night, and the stuff will magically absorb. And there are people that will buy that. But that's that magic sense. Be aware of this. Don't do it, but get somewhere, find the sweet spot. There is magic to what you offer. The magic may not be that you don't have to do any work, but the magic may be that you offer the shortcut secrets. And almost everybody who offers some kind of info thing, if you were there and you went through the path, such as I did, I can legitimately say I can shortcut your trip by 10 to 20 years. Because I was struggling for 10 years, and there were no seminars like this, by the way, when I was coming up the ranks. So I had to kind of, the school of hard knocks is actually a nice way of putting it, but I learned through experience, and I took notes. So I can legitimately say that I can shortcut everyone else's thing. So that's somewhere down there. It's a believable thing. But in their minds, they're getting towards that point of shortcut. Yeah, that's a good thing. Or, it's an option that you can have. Okay, bullets. I talked about bullets before. Pardon me? Bullets, I will give you some examples here, but I want you to read this before we do that. The 1-2 punch of emotionally satisfying practical use with a little tweak of shock and delight plus the occasional direct assault on common sense. Good copywriters, the top copywriters who work in the game, we call them the A-list, and there's only at most a couple of dozen, and as another writer who was here, Tony, mentioned, there's really, of the top, there's only about 7 or 8, and that holds true even as the ones on the top retire or go off or to do something else. The new ones coming up, there aren't that many. But they live and die by bullets, and I will show you an example. I'll say I invented it, but I really didn't. I'll have to take it back. I didn't invent it. The 1-2 punch, the idea of doing this, I became known as the best bullet writer in the biz for a short period of time. I don't know if that's true anymore because I'm out of that A-list writing market. But A-list writers still to this day call me to have me go over their bullets to try to work on them. And I'll tell you the secret is this 1-2 punch. The emotionally satisfying practical use with a little tweak in there. And I'll show you some examples. This is from, come on. This is from a sex letter that I wrote. Anybody want me to skip the sex bullets? Are you going to be offended? No? I saw a lot of guys just bolt to attention there in the middle of the room. So. These are bullets. When you're reading a piece of advertising copy, there will be parts that you come across where the bullet is literally the little, right there, they're square there, but the original bullets on typewriters were like certain dots, and they look like bullet holes, thus the term bullet. Very, very straightforward. But it can be, the finger pointing at it. You've seen that in the old ads, or any kind of highlight that separates these things. We call them bullets. In the largest mailers in the world will send out magalogs and letters that are 90% bullets. Taking what you have, breaking it down into coherent little snatches of feature benefit type knowledge. And we'll look at some of these. How to hit all of her long overdue hot buttons at the exact right moment. Now most bullet writers would stop at that first part. How to hit all of her long overdue hot buttons. I added at the exact right moment, and I did a parenthetical comment. And finally, explore new spots of intense titillation she never suspected she had. So it's moving forward. It's going beyond what the normal writer would do and providing a little story, a little compact story. The next one, how to destroy your guy with the best sex he's ever received. This was actually going to women, by the way. Excuse me. This is going to couples. I apologize. I've written some just to guys, and I've written some just to women. This one was going to couples. This mailed for a long time, by the way. How to destroy your guy with the best sex he's ever received. Parenthesis, he'll be your slave for life, grateful, and super eager to return the favor. And on the very bottom, highlighted in color, are your sexual needs normal? The answer may shock the heck out of you. Okay? Anybody here have normal sexual needs? I will tell you from the stats that you do not. This is from a marketing piece. How to create your own perfect product over a short weekend so you can start earning your fortune even if you don't have a real business or anything to sell yet. Number 3, a quickie idiot's guide to consumer psychology. Instantly understand exactly what makes your customer tick and learn how to tickle his consumer hot buttons to the point of frenzy. I might have one more. I do. Learn the shortcut secrets of instantly playing 99% of all rock, hard rock, and new wave tunes out there. Parenthesis, most songs are stunningly simple once you know the pro-level tricks. The third one down, skip years of frustration by learning the one power chord used by most hard rock and metal guitarists. In 2 minutes, using 2 fingers, you'll know how to play over 200 rock songs. Okay? Now you start creating your eye-popping offer. You want to appeal to the bargain hunter's sense of discovering something that's not only good, but the bargain is tremendous. What? No. Heart-skipping outrageous value. I really try to make my readers' hearts skip a beat. And you do that by piling on the value. Mooch-pleasing bonuses. In the old direct mail jargon, mooch was somebody who replied to an offer just to get the freebies. And as much as you really didn't want those people to kind of get away with something, you had to make it pleasing to those people to be able to bring everyone else in. If you couldn't make a mooch excited about the offer with the freebies, then you certainly wouldn't move anybody who actually had a legitimate need or a legitimate want for the product. And then paranoia calming guarantees. People do get paranoid. Going back to that thing about the brother-in-law and the wife. If you buy something online, you come back and you can't answer why you did it and why it wasn't a bad idea, you're in trouble. Your job as a writer is to give him ammo so he can calm the nervous spouse, put down the nosy neighbor. Who wins when 2 neighbors come home on the same day with a new Lexus and they pull in the driveway? Who wins? The one who got the best deal, the bargain, hands down. And how long does that win last? Until the next game. Could last forever. Your clothes, the heartbreak of selling from your heels versus wealth beyond the dreams of avarice. Wealth beyond the dreams of avarice is an old term. Avarice is one of the 7 deadly sins, I believe. So the heartbreak of selling from your heels here is the big thing to talk about, though. Most people sell with 1 foot ready to bolt. So it's kind of like, here's what I got, but you probably don't really want to do it. Nah, you don't. And then they take off. They're out of there. I will tell you, most of you are selling that way, in some fashion. There's nothing wrong with just stepping forward and saying, here's what I've got, here's what it's going to do for you, here's what you need to do now. I won't say that most people are sheep out there, but you will not be disappointed if you take the idea that your market is really craving some kind of direction to help them get from where they are to where they want to be or need to be, or a lot of times it's hazy. They have a hazy idea of where they need to go or what they want to do. They really don't know. But if you're the guy that can take them there, they need you to say certain things. They need you to be that guy. They need you to have that credibility to be able to say, I'll come along. And if you have something that they can use, then shame on you if you don't do everything in your power to convince them that you're the guy they should be talking to. Here's an example from some copy. Here's what I've set up for you. To join the Special Operations Club, all you have to do is say yes to my invitation here. You do not have to pay a dime up front, and there are no membership fees ever. The only way anyone can join is to be asked, personally, by me. I will immediately send you this instant advanced fighting knowledge. This was a self-defense kit, by the way. Package I've just described. This package of video, CD, and special reports is yours to keep free and clear no matter what. As an invited member, blah, blah, blah. And then down here at the bottom, last two. Even so, I'm giving you 2 months to decide. Just so you don't ever feel pressured or rushed, take your time. I trust you. But here's the best part. No matter what the video will sell for to anyone else, your price will never be higher than $49. So it's an inside deal. Video, it's funny. I grabbed the one piece of copy that showed my age. I came down here a couple days earlier to golf with my buddy Dean Jackson. I noticed he still had a number of the videos that one of my clients had sold, and he still keeps a rickety VHS machine there just to watch some of the old videos. So, and he's one of the younger guys in the biz. So. This is big. Turbulence. Turbulence are the tools of action. Everything from hand-wringing urgency. That would be a major tool of the launch process. Greed-inducing limitations. One of the things that I shock people with, and I don't want to go into it too much here, but really, top salesmen know that there's only 5 or 6 basic emotional parts to the human animal. And as somebody in the workshop said, Jesse, was it you? Basically take all the worst things you can say about somebody else. He's a greedy, conniving, selfish bastard. That pretty much describes everybody. And it describes you too. We are all greedy at heart, we are all selfish. It's a constant battle. There is nobility in being human. When people first start learning how to sell, it can be a little daunting because the reality checks that required to get there, when you start looking at people without the haze of believing we're this noble beast that left the jungle a long time ago, it's not a bad thing. You don't get all depressed and want to end it all because you can't stand living with a bunch of animals. However, by most of the top salesmen know that not only did we not leave the jungle a long time ago, but we have 1 foot still in it. All right? And I don't love people any less. I love them more. Let the blinders fall away. Have the reality checks you need, and see people for what they are and what they really want and why they do the things they do. Did I just shock anybody? Is anybody upset now and they want to end it all? Good. Gary Halbert had a great phrase. He used to say the job of the copywriter is to get his little greed gland salivating. And once you understand that, getting somebody to take money that was once theirs, whether it's a credit card or cash or check or a PayPal account, and take money that was once theirs and give it to you is one of the hardest transactions in human behavior there is to begin, to go through. People don't want to do that. It's really easy to get somebody to say, that sounds like a pretty good deal. Sounds like a pretty good product. You did your due diligence. That's really good. I'm going to think about it. That's easy. The job of the classic salesman is to get him off of there Part of that is through turbulence. Here's a headline I wrote. The 7 reasons attractive women choose other men over you, and what to do about it today. One of the best testimonials I ever got was, I can't remember the guy's name, but he was a top marketer, but he was mad at me too. He says, John, I'm really mad. I read what you wrote. I went to bed. I woke up at 4 a.m. I couldn't get back to sleep, so I got up, booted up the computer, and ordered. Because the turbulence was in there. It was an uncomfort. There was a disconnect in his head. His life was not going to be complete until he got what we were selling. Here's a piece of copy that I threw in here. You got to hurry, though. Like I said, I have a package here for you. They're DVDs, but you can get videos instead just as easy. Copy's about 8 years old. If we hear from you in the next 11 days, your package will be rushed to you by Federal Express Ground if you're in the States. And once you have your package, you'll have a full year to decide if you want to keep it or send it back for a full refund. No hassles. Your word is all we need. The staff has orders to treat you with total respect and honor your word at all times. This is a special privilege I'm offering only to guys like you on our hot list, and only in the order you're on that list. By getting this letter, you have earned a spot up the list. So there's a package here for you. If you don't want it, do nothing, and we'll take your name off the package and send it to the guy below you on the list. Yeah, come on, let's applaud. That's just filthy good sales and show. How many people recognize that as a classic takeaway? Of course, almost everyone. And 16, again, this is the process I'm going through. There were 17, we're at 16, knock them off the fence. Stimulating surprises as you get down to the actual ordering thing. How many people participate in any of the launches that have been going on? A lot of people. What happens as you get closer to the end? Ante starts going up, doesn't it? More and more stuff, more and more value. I like this. It's your birthday, rare treat dumps. That's where, make the person feel like that feeling that they have. It's their birthday again. I know a guy who, I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to give away his secrets, but he gives seminars, and he actually uses NLP to reduce entire rooms of people down to that state you felt when you had nap time in kindergarten. Remember, they bring the blanket out and you get the milk and cookies? I think one time he even served milk and cookies. Well, if you can get, you don't have to go quite that far, but if you can instill that thing of that feeling of when birthdays mattered. They don't matter much to adults anymore, but as a kid they mattered. Felt a little special. You do that by giving away stuff, by making them feel like they're on the inside, giving them a treat. Free stuff up the yin-yang, more, better, longer, bigger. Knock them off the fence. Again, it's very easy. Any chump can get somebody up on the fence to agree that, yeah, what you got there is pretty good. Knocking them off the fence, which means, so they'll buy, they will act, they will do what you want them, what you're asking them to do. That's very hard. Here's an example. Don't believe me? Fine, here's my guarantee. Check it out for yourself. If you don't agree this is the most vicious and simple a master fighting system you've ever experienced, then I'll give you $10 from my own pocket. But you must act fast, because once the military learns it allowed this stuff to leak into civilian hands, you will never hear about it again. Plus, I've arranged it so you can see everything for free if you choose. By the way, I know there's laughable elements in this. I do not lie. I made a vow to myself early on that I will not lie. I will possibly spin things a little bit, but I always check it out. It comes from the heart. It comes from actually knowing things. And my client actually had military people pissed off because this product was a Navy SEAL, an active Navy SEAL, sharing self-defense tactics, actually hand-to-hand combat tactics. And he had already been warned by his commander that the commander was going a step above to the Pentagon to find out if they could keep selling this stuff. And these guys actually did get stopped, not on this product, but they actually had people come out, and I got to go to this. We went to a SWAT team in Visalia, California, near Fresno, training ground, where I, under the tutelage of a Delta colonel from the Delta Forces, I fired 2,000 rounds in a day and a half, cleared a safe house. Anybody seen a safe house? They have no roof, but there's cement. You go through and you got little cardboard cutouts of a mother with a baby comes out. You're not supposed to shoot that one. You shoot the bad guy with the knife and the Hitler statue and stuff. And it was fabulous stuff. They're walking around behind you with a shotgun. They're firing off and lights are blaring. You're trying to be disoriented. That was just fabulous stuff. Pentagon did shut that down. So just in case anybody thinks I'm stretching it out. However, it takes a writer who understands what those nuggets are. There were other writers that had tried to write this kind of stuff that knew the same stuff I knew and didn't use it. Finally, the grease slide. This is where most of the guys who have been talking who are good copywriters or know how to get a message across, where they excel. Have that riveting yet casual face-to-face. I call it a barroom conversation. The reason I say that is because I try to tell people how to imagine you're sitting in a bar. Now, it doesn't have to be a bar, it can be a cafe, but people kind of like the idea of the barroom conversation because there's more of an element of suspense there. Somebody sits down and says, not to you, but to the bartender, I'm having a bad day. And the bartender says, what's wrong, Jim? And he says, and what he says describes the exact fears or problems or whatever that what you have fixes. So you turn to him and you say, excuse me, I couldn't help overhearing what you just said, but and then what do you say? Think about that face-to-face situation. Selling is an inherently hostile act. You're almost always an interruption in his day. Very rare does your email arrive in his box as happy days, although I certainly strive for that. And in my golf stuff, the Doc O'Leary character that I've been writing for, he's a real guy, but I've been Doc O'Leary's voice for a long time. The response that we keep hearing from people is that they get a letter or they get an email from Doc O'Leary and they say, usually I get that oh yuck response, another piece of direct mail or another somebody trying to sell me something in the email. Instead, what they say when you do this right is they'll say, hey, another one from Doc O'Leary. I wonder what that nutcase has to tell me today. And even knowing that there's going to be a pitch in that letter, or knowing that email is going to ask him to do something, to buy something, the story's going to be so fun, going to be so inside, going to be, as Frank said, right to the core of the person's being, that you are now welcome there. Still, when you get to that sales part, it's going to be an inherently hostile act. Now back away from that, where somebody knows you and expects your email and likes to get it, the average person, you're going to be an interruption. And even if you have what he wants, if he woke up today and thought, oh my God, my life is incomplete because I don't have X, and you're providing X, what's his job internally? What is he doing while you're trying to sell him, while you're trying to present your case? What is he really looking for? Anybody want to take a guess? He's looking for a way out. He's looking for you to stumble so that he can say, nah, that ain't for me, or this guy's a charlatan, or this is bullshit, or whatever. So that because you present a problem in his life, if you are going to make him recharge that hope that has been dashed so often in his life, to make him think that this really is it, or this could be it, but oh my God, it's so hard for me to admit that this guy could be right, or that this opportunity could really be something that could help me in my life. See, he's not going to like you very much for having done that, woken him up and presented this thing, where now he has to act. He now has a new problem in his life, in that he has to acquire what you have now made him lust after. Okay? You want to goose him out of his inherently hostile, somnambulent blob state. Now this does not contradict what Frank was talking about yesterday with that empathy thing going on. I agree 100% with what he said. Try to be in a market where you are totally congruent with what they want, and what you want is what they want, and you're living the good life because you're all on the same wavelength. Still, until they wake up, most of the people are going to be in this semi-somnambulant zombie state. Reading is a passive behavior. In the videos you've been seeing, and whatever it was that got you to get off your duffs at home, get on a plane and come out to Disney World and come to this thing, something happened. Think about that. How many people are here for their first marketing seminar ever? It was a startling event in your life when you decided to come, wasn't it? Something goosed you out of your state. Because what's the easiest thing to do, even when presented with the best possibility in the world or the best opportunity? What's the easiest thing to do? Say no. There's no penalty, there's no consequence to saying no. Not really. Unless I tell you what the consequence is. How many people have friends or colleagues or somebody who wanted to come, decided they weren't going to come, really even tried to talk you out of it, this is going to be pretty specific, and didn't come? Look at that. A few people are raising their hands. And what are they going to say when you get back? Is there anything you're going to be able to tell them that's going to make them think that they made the wrong decision? Probably not. They're invested in not having come. And they're going to be convinced you're an idiot. You know, I was talking with, Jeff Walker had his parents here, and all of us have had this thing. My father is 86 years old. He came around a few years ago. But all of our parents are just astonished that we've done anything because almost all of us were lazy, ne'er-do-well, like I said, I was a degenerate hippie into my late 20s, and it was just, they never expect anything, and they're astonished, and they don't kind of quite get it. They don't understand it because it's this internet marketing thing, or actually direct response marketing. It's kind of new, and it's always a great moment when they finally say, oh, I get it now. I see that, you haven't been lying to me. You really do speak on stages in front of people and all of this. And God bless them for being open enough to be able to do it. There are people, and I've worked with people before whose parents wouldn't come to one of these things no matter what. They wouldn't be drug kicking and screaming here because they were invested in their reality, which is that doesn't work, this isn't true, okay? There's a piece of copy I threw in here. I think this pretty much sums up the way I've written before. It's so easy, you'll be laughing after every explosive drive. It's a golf piece, how to drive farther and straighter. This brilliant new breakthrough by scientific, quote, golf geeks reveals a breathtakingly simple and super fast way for you to instantly trick your swing to tap the hidden payload of raw power you've been ignoring your entire life. But hey, don't believe me, because you can check it out for free yourself. Hi, Joe. Well, science has finally come to golf. Took them long enough. I mean, you can only waste your time on projects like landing on Mars and curing baldness for so long before you decide you have to pay some attention to something really serious, like golf. And I got to tell you, you will be astonished and overjoyed at what science has discovered. Because for essentially lazy guys like you and me, it simply means we can blah, blah, blah. Okay? Oh, this is, I didn't know I had this in. This is from one of the sex letters that went out to millions and millions of people for 5 years or so. Dear friend, my name is Susan Smith. I wrote this. I usually wear a dress when I write as a woman. And that's a little trick that you guys can take home now. Dear friend, my name is Susan Smith. With your permission and with strict precautions for your privacy, I'm going to send you a fascinating package of uncensored advanced sex class DVDs that have already helped tens of thousands of other regular people of all ages to finally enjoy the best sex of their lives. News of these breakthrough Learn It Fast DVDs has spread like wildfire among getting to know couples. Think of that as part of the conversation that's going on. If I just met somebody, if Susan Smith had just met somebody and they had even an inkling that, she heard the guy say, I want to keep my marriage going, but sex has become a problem or whatever, she might say, my name is Susan Smith. With your permission and with strict precautions for your privacy. Every line, every word in there pays its way. When I write long copy, this was a 12-page letter. I will tell you that in most of the pages, there isn't a single word you could take out of there without changing the meaning of the sentence or the paragraph or the point I was trying to make. You write tight. And I'm thinking, if you look at this, I'm taking the objections that I know are going to be in the guy's heads as he goes. Who are you? What have you got? Why would this be for me? Blah, blah, blah. Just nailing it. It's just one after another, just knocking it down. Okay, I promised you guys an interactive thing, and we've got some time. What would you like to work on? I'll probably only be able to do one. I did pretty much all 17. We had to scoot through the last 3 or 4 or 5 in the workshop, but we went deep in the workshop. I made people write hard, And it was painful, wasn't it? Yes. I would like you guys to write. Now, I have my recommendation, but I want to hear from you. Is there anything people would like to work on, do a little exercise on? Sure, what? Knock them off the fence? Yeah. Headlines? Turbulence? Grease slide. Okay. I think we can knock off 2 of these at once. Now, headlines generally comes from the USP. The combination, I'm pointing on this like you guys can see it. The combination of USP, which I put headlines here because that is a big thing. USP, huge promise, features and benefits, bullets, and the avatar. A lot of that comes into play when you do headlines. When I take people who have not written copy before, and I will tell you that learning to write your own copy will help you even if you don't do it. If you do it, you will be armed such that it can never be taken away from you. If you know how to write copy, you can be reduced to nothing. They can take all your money away, they can take all your business away, your life can be in shambles. As I like to put it, you can wake up buck naked in a cornfield in Iowa. And if you can get yourself together to get some pencil and paper and start to write, you will actually be able to communicate with people in a way where you can get your business going again. Even if you don't write, however, if you hire writers and you don't know if what they've written fulfills what they need to do to get the stuff written to have your prospect do what he needs to do, you will be like a babe in the woods. You will spend piles and piles of money. And I will tell you, I know a lot of freelance copywriters. They will do the minimum amount of work they can get away with, no matter how much you pay them. So if you don't know if what they write is any good or not, they will, well, you don't want to be in that situation. So when I have done this, I've only done this a few times, but when I do it, it is my belief that if I can teach you to write a simple how-to sentence, and I'll explain that in a second, that this will help you not only with headlines, but it'll help you with subject lines, it'll help you with your AdWords, it'll help you with bullets, it'll help you with everything. And we don't have time to go very deep, but I want you to right now, you're going to take 5 minutes, but first I want you to think of the person you're writing to. Those of you who don't have a product, sell this seminar for rich. A single line, how-to. The reason I choose how-to is that's a basic headline. Pro writers will often write 50 headlines or more before they choose the headline that goes. We'll be all over the map. We almost always start with how-to headlines because how-to is about as basic as you can get. Here's who I am. Here's how to do this. I'm going to ask you to write for a few minutes. We will have some people, and then I'll critique some of the things, so hopefully it'll become clear to you. Write me a simple how-to sentence. Tell me if you can't think, if you don't have your avatar, if you don't know who you're writing to in your market. Tell me, if not me, if you know who you're writing to, tell her or tell him how to do something. The basics of your biz would be great. If you're selling a law service where you're helping people with divorce problems, you know, how to solve your divorce problems. And remember when we talked about the bullets, think of that 1-2 punch. Deliver a rational part of the how-to and deliver an emotional part. Okay, write for 5 minutes. Okay, pencils down, sit back. Now, I will let you volunteer, and if you don't volunteer, I will pick the people who look like they're trying to hide the most. We have mics on the side. Does anybody want to try it? Let's see what you got.
Okay, I work in the music industry and own an online record store and record company. I wrote, how to finally end the frustrating, disappointing experience of buying yet another lame, overhyped CD by experiencing a new revolutionary way to purchase ear-poppin' music.
Okay, not bad. You bring up something, and again, there's no wrong answers, but I will try to humiliate you as much as possible. He brings up an excellent thing. Good writing involves very few adjectives. Everybody know the difference between a verb and an adjective? I have a report that's called Power Words, and what I learned early on is that if you let the verbs do the work, you can have all adjectives disappear from your copy forever. Verbs are things like he walked down the street, he strolled down the street, he bolted down the street in a panic, he floated down the street in a romantic daze. So if you do that, then you don't fall into what is generally that hypey thing of the most gorgeous, stunning, outrageously amazing value, blah, blah, blah. Then you start getting into that hype stuff. So you start doing that. But that was not bad. That's what we call a starter how-to sentence. He had, is that the first one you've ever written? Or are you a writer? First one you ever written. So that's actually pretty good. In fact, let's give him a little hand there. What you do is you start to write a lot of those, you start to get it down, and he actually paid attention to what the guy had. He talked about frustration, he talked about solving a problem. Now, you're a long way from coming up with something that was really a hook, because I would be in your audience, I would be in your market, and you did not hook me, but that doesn't mean that you won't be able to, because, you know, iTunes has kind of ended a lot of my frustration. You probably hate those bastards anyway. You're probably a Steve Jobs doll, you're sticking pins in every night, a little... But there is a niche for that kind of stuff. It's the audio file or something. You probably want to identify them. By the way, the other type of thing besides the how-to sentence is the if-then sentence. If you're in the market for blah, 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 then this message is going to make your day type of thing. So that's another little tip there. Okay, anybody else? This side of the room. Back there.
Hi, Kenny Handelman here. How to teach your doctor the lesson by letting the gift of ADD burst out of your child. He'll be happier, do better at school, and you'll quiet all of those nosy, judgmental, and often rude people.
Let ADD bust out of your child?
The gift of ADD bursts from your child.
How is ADD a gift?
Well, come to my course and you'll find out.
Okay. Well, interesting. So you're trying to do that juxtaposition type of thing. Okay, if you're going to do that, you have to make it clear. I think a lot of people here understand ADD. We didn't a few years ago, but I think we all are getting clear on it now. So that's not bad. You're taking the basic things and I see now what you're doing, but you didn't do it. But if that's what you want to do, think about what I need to hear to be alarmed about it or to be surprised or shocked or actually get engaged in this. Try to engage me. And you were kind of talking over my head and you know, there was a disconnect there. And I will tell you that a lot of writers, when we write, we realize that we're disconnecting, and we'll have to write around a problem a bit to kind of try to hit it. So you want to write as many of these as you can, as fast as you can, and really try to nail it. Not bad, though. Not bad. Yeah, over here. This guy has been patient.
Hi, I do poker. Mine is how to take previously top secret poker strategies to dominate any game you enter and crush all opposition.
Say it again.
How to take previously top secret poker strategies to dominate any game you enter and crush all opposition.
Okay, that's not bad. Have you ever written before?
Just a little bit.
Okay. Poker is a very crowded market. And one of the things you do when you write these how-to things is you take not just the person you're writing to, but you have to remember how you're positioning yourself. What are you saying that may or may not be relevant or less or more relevant to his life, depending on what else he's heard today? What else the other guys in the poker world have told him? What else is going on? What other noise is happening in here? So what you wrote was kind of generic and straightforward and could be picked up by anybody else, and there's a lot of guys that could say the same thing. So as you start thinking about the unique things that you bring to this, your USP, the idea that yeah, there's a lot of people saying these things. The trick is if you can take what you've just written and your competition can use it without changing a word, then you haven't said anything unique. All right? So good job. Think about the uniqueness. In a market like that, you have to stand out. And if you'll notice, in the poker market, which I sometimes go to sleep watching either the World Series of Poker reruns or that late night poker show or whatever it is, just it's interesting to me. It's personality. There's a lot of personality-driven stuff. It's like I'm sure that all those books on poker, they haven't got a lot more to say than, you know, learn the game and, you know, there's a few tricks. But the way they say it and the way they deliver it makes all the difference in the world. Does that make sense? Yep. Good. And then up here. Did you have a, Mike?
Mine was how to build an incredible downline. Do you want to learn how to have an A player on your team and to get a release from the tedious headaches of people who don't want to work?
Okay. That is the problem of network marketing, of course. And you need to get out of MLM, though. But that's not bad. That's not bad. He identified a problem, which is a lot of people who are in sales, one of the main problems you can identify is cold calling, the problems of cold calling. And I make this case a lot when people are going in the medical field. A guy, to become a doctor, has to go through, 7 years of school and the internship and all this stuff. You know what the average doctor, what the first thing he wants to do after he hangs his shingle and sees his first patient, after he's been out of medical school and the internship and all this, what's the first thing he wants to do after he's seen his first patient? Retire. So if you know that, if you understand what's going on there, that gives you this insight into this. And I've written for coaches for several different fields like that, where I didn't say how to get more patients, how to make more money. The making more money was okay, but the big thing that was swinging it was work 20 hours a week, work a lot less, take away all the stress, be able to go on a vacation every single month and things like that. Paint that pleasing picture in their head. Okay, just a couple more and then, sure.
John, I've got a book that's a fiction book, but there's a big golf element to it.
Okay.
So this is for the golf market. How to use the Australian secret to rocket the ball to the hole every time, even while blindfolded.
Okay, that's not bad. That's not bad. Okay, let's have just a couple more. Where are we at? Okay.
I'm selling business to business, so my customer has a lot of people involved in making a decision. And the headline is, how to turn your sales and marketing into a lean, predictable money machine and do it in a way your salespeople will love.
Not bad. You identified something and went after. I'm very impressed with this crowd. Have you written before? A little bit? Okay. Very interesting. Are you guys hearing how you guys absorb this? It's great. You're thinking about outside of your box. Most people write to themselves. Here's this great thing I got, and boy, am I happy I have it. You want it too. That ain't gonna work. A couple more. Go ahead.
My name is Rick Grundon. I run an investment company made up of individual accredited millionaires. The headline is, how to fire your broker, how to invest with the buying power of a $100 million fund, perform due diligence how to leverage the due diligence of 6 of the top analysts of the world, and along with the social validation of over 1,000 other, 2,700 other multi-millionaires like you.
Okay. Except that he's probably not a millionaire since you're writing to him, but
They are. They're on a targeted list of people that are already millionaires. We have to write to a millionaire.
This is interesting. Is firing the broker way up there on their list of wishes that they want? Do they like it?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's one of those pieces of information that you might not know unless you do the research or you're in there and you know it. And I actually have written for the financial field before, and I know that's a biggie. So yeah, good job. Okay, one more. I guess we got a guy already.
How to avoid the 7 mistakes everyone makes when planning a Disney vacation and have the most fun you've ever had.
Not bad, very basic. Have you written before?
Just AdWords.
Okay. Okay, very good. Now, if you start thinking about what those 7 mistakes, you said mistakes, is that right? A simple thing is to think of the word mistakes. Where is the crux of that sentence? It's on mistakes, the 7 mistakes. I mean, having the best time in Disney, you're going to hear that from Disney and all kinds of things. The 7 mistakes. How would that, as another word or even a phrase, how would that change the meaning or up the ante? Like the 7 blunders that ruin 9 out of 10 vacationers' trips to Disney World. The 7 blunders that will leave your kid in tears instead of happy memories, so to speak. Okay, there was one more. No, look, I'm sorry. I'm going to cut you off. We haven't had any women. I want one woman. Okay. I don't want to be sexist.
How to throw an unforgettable party the likes of which your friends and neighbors have never seen. You'll never have an embarrassingly empty bomb of an event again. The 10 top secrets of a professional party planner uses to create the memories of a lifetime. Download the perfect step-by-step.
Okay, stop there. You lost me at Memories of a Lifetime, but before that, killer. Have you written before?
Just for my own use.
Okay. Did what I talked about today help you at all? Start to focus and craft, because that was a killer piece of copy.
Oh, thank you.
I've been a fan of Dear Abby and the stuff since I was a little kid. I always liked advice columns, and one of my favorite authors is Miss Manners. What's her book? The Excruciatingly Correct Etiquette for the 21st Century or something. It's just great. I mean, it's fabulous stuff. Witty. It's not dry at all. I mean, she just eviscerates people. Her average letter is, you know, somebody came to my house and used the wrong fork, and I put them down politely, as I'm sure you would have wanted me to or something, and she just lays into them. You know, it's more rude to point out a rudeness, things like that. But she knows the psychology of this thing. People putting on parties. What's the worst thing that can happen? How many people have been to a party where you're the only one, or there's you and two other people, and you're kind of stuck there, you know, a Halloween party or something like that? Oh, most of you are just party animals and never go to those places, huh? You know, it's embarrassing. You know, when Rich puts on an event like that, what if you gave a party and nobody shows up? You know, there's always that element there. So that's a psychological thing you can dig into. Okay, that's all the time I have for that. I will tell you that we put the raw footage of the day-and-a-half workshop into a package. I'm not going to pitch, but it is available over. We have Lisa's over at the table in the next room. And if you want to see people going deep and see the workshop in all its glory, and I would highly suggest you just go over and visit, chat with Lisa. I'm not going to pitch, but it is available, which I think is just amazing. We had it, we filmed it. What is this? Day and a half later, Mark got it put on a hard drive, and we'll have the DVDs ready. So I think that's amazing. So I wish I could take a bunch of questions. I will be over at the table. But that's all, folks. Thanks.